Ask Dan Schneider. Randall asked me, uh, why do I think that The Odd Couple was the greatest sitcom of all time? Well, I've written about this a few times. I've spoken of it in my interviews and whatnot. And yes, I would have to say I think the greatest television sitcom of all time, at least in America, was The Odd Couple. I think Jack Klugman and Tony Randall were probably the greatest comedy team of all time. And the thing that's interesting is neither of these actors were big stars before that. Tony Randall was mostly in a lot of light comedies as a supporting actor throughout the 50s and 60s. He did some game shows. Jack Klugman did mostly dramas where he was basically a loser. He was in live television mostly. He did some Twilight Zones, and throughout the 60s he guest starred on certain things. But when they came together, because neither of them was a big star, the way, say, Jackie Gleason became when doing The Honeymooners, I think there was less ego, and the two guys just blended very well. Plus, they had a great supporting cast. They had a great writing team, and the whole setup by Neil Simon just played to the strengths of the actors. Um, Klugman was a great straight man in a sense. Uh, Randall was more the laugh getter, but they could sometimes reverse roles too. And uh, I think if you look at the 1970s, there's a timelessness about it. Yes, it's set in the 1970s, but aside from the lack of computers and cell phones, um, it still resonates to a certain degree. Most of the Norman Lear comedies don't. Yes, uh, you can look at some of the political stuff and it seems dated, and you can say that some of that though is still relevant. But because The Odd Couple was sort of set outside of time for the most part, I think that's why it resonates. Similarly, Gilligan's Island is a sort of timeless tale as well. Um, Gilligan's Island is more absurdist humor. Um, the Odd Couple is really adult humor, and adult humor not in the smutty sense of the word, but in the sense of the word that it took its task seriously and delivered. So I would say, it arguably some of the Mary Tyler Moore produced comedies were the highlights of the 70s, but The Odd Couple, I think, was the best of the 70s and the best so far all time in American television, at least.